Welcome to Grit and Grace, the place where grit shapes you, grace carries you, and friends walk beside you through it all. I'm Pam Rader, and along with my co-hosts Erin Payne and Brian Thiessen, we're here to laugh, cry, and tell the truth about what it means to be fully human. Think of us as your old friends. We share real stories, a little cowboy logic, and transformational tools. Because here's the thing, life's gonna kick your ass sometimes, but it'll also invite you to rise. And when you've got grit and grace and a few good friends, you will get through it all. So pull up a chair, grab your coffee, and buckle up. Welcome back to Grit and Grace. It's Pam Rader here with my sidekick, Erin Payne. Hey, Erin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
And today we're getting into relationships. It's our favorite topic, hey, Erin? We love.
Yes.
The good, the messy, and the are we actually going to make it moments. And we've got Aftin Jolly with us, and she is a couples therapist who helps people stop talking in circles and actually start understanding each other again, which, let's be honest, is no small thing. Afton's work is grounded in the idea that love isn't just this magical feeling we either have or don't have. It's a choice. Honestly, Afton, that's my favorite thing that you said. It is a choice. It is not a magical feeling. And sometimes it's a choice you have to make when you're frustrated, disconnected, you'd like to clunk your partner over the head with a frying pan. She brings a real powerful mix to her work. She's a registered clinical counselor here in BC. She's trained in level 2 Gottman method couples therapy, which I really respect the Gottman Institute and the work they do. And she integrates Gestalt work so couples can actually see their patterns as they're happening, not 3 days later in a fight or a recap. Now, here's my second favorite part. She's also influenced by my idol, Esther Perel. If you guys don't know who Esther Perel is, just Google her, look her up. She's a fascinating, incredible eroticism expert, and I freaking love her. And so we might get into that tension between safety and desire, which is always a juicy conversation. And outside the therapy room, she works with horses as an equine assisted learning facilitator, which is really cool and feels like the most honest mirror you could probably get in a relationship. Welcome, Afton, to Grit and Grace. We're
Thank
really glad that you're
you.
here.
I'm
Yeah.
excited.
So let's just start with a question. Tell our listeners a little bit about the basis of your Gottman training, because they might not be familiar with that. I just rattled it off like everyone should know. So talk a little bit about that, and then perhaps the 4 horsemen of Gottman that they're most famous for.
Yeah, so the Gottmans are this incredible couple that have done years and years, like a ton of research on relationships. They're most known for what they did was called like the Love Lab, where they had couples go into a room for like a day and they learned how they interact, whether it was conflict, it was fun, how they kind of work. And that created a lot of basis for what the Gottmans do when it comes to strategies for helping couples. So they learned, okay, when a couple does certain behavior patterns, what's going to happen next? And what can we do to help mitigate this stuff?
Everything's
Julie and
patterns.
John.
Everything. We don't understand that as human beings. We think we're so special. We're not. The brain is predictive and we're constantly living out patterns, right?
Oh, constantly. And it's funny because when I work with couples, within a couple sessions, I kind of have an idea of like what I like to call their tango. It's like, what's that dance? Instead of calling it pattern, I like to try add fun terms in. What's the tango that they're playing? I'm like, oh, you want to try a waltz now or a bachata? Let's try a new dance.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to end up in those things, and it makes a lot of sense, like, why people end up in those patterns. But then to speak to the 4 horsemen, so did all this research, Julie and John, and then what they learned was there's these 4 things that basically, like, hurt relationship, and they're gonna build and they're gonna create it, so it's really hard to actually have connection with your partner. One of them is contempt. That's the biggest doozy of them all. That's usually the highest predictor of a
And
relationship.
let's talk about what contempt actually looks like. What is contempt in a relationship?
So when like someone, the one I always signal out is like when someone pulls their lip up and they're like,
The
that
sneer.
means they kind of like feel like they're better than you. They're more right. You don't know like when someone looks at their partner like they're an idiot, like legitimately.
Right. We talk
Contempt
about
is
Terry Reel's work a lot, and he calls it one up and boundaryless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically that.
Yeah.
I think
Okay,
everyone
got it.
knows a couple like that, really. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
been
yeah.
that couple.
Yeah.
No,
I was in that couple one time too. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's hard and it's defeating, and as the person who receives the contempt, you feel like you're not human
Yeah.
anymore. You're really
Yeah.
degraded.
I would
So
imagine it
contempt
creates a lot of self-doubt, and when you have self-doubt, you go into protective patterns.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just trying to survive then.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the
Yeah.
second of the 4 horsemen?
So we've got criticism. This one I see quite often, and it can come off like sometimes people use joking as a way to like say things, but it can be quite critical. Criticism is this thing where a lot of us think that we're trying to be helpful. We're like, you should do this differently, or like we have this intention, but it ends up coming in a way where someone thinks, when I get criticized, I'm not enough. I can never do anything right. I like, what do I do, basically? That
I
one's hard
think
for couples.
I wanna say something about that because there's a flip side to this that doesn't get discussed a lot. You know, criticism is a habit of communication, certainly, and I think that most people who criticize were highly criticized.
Yeah.
I was in my second marriage, my husband was quite critical, and at that point, I had no resilience. I didn't really have a lot
Oh.
of deep self-worth coming out of a very abusive relationship previously, and so his criticism just landed like salt in a wound every time. My current partner jokes around and he was highly criticized as a child and he makes comments about the dishes or whatever. I could give a fuck. I couldn't care less. I just laugh.
Hey, that's a
I'm
nice
like, that's a
change.
him thing, like whatever. And I'm like, oh, it's so it sucked to be bent out of shape about that. And then he laughs it off. So I think it's twofold. It's like yeah, learning the damaging aspect of criticizing where that's coming from, but then also as the recipient, like if it doesn't fit, don't own it. Yeah.
That's it. I love that you bring up that piece, because partners end up in these zones where it's really easy to take the hit. And then it's like, well, then kind of like how you said in my intro of like choice. I think choice is a massive part of all relationship. You get to choose if you're going to let that in. And sometimes it's easier to choose and subconsciously you choose for it to be easy. And then other times you choose, "Oh, I don't need that in my life. So I'm just going to put it away." It's really a matter of your tolerance level for choice.
Well, and then there's that
Mm.
third option, like, I could actually speak my mind and say, you know, there have been times where I'm like, "You know what? That feels a little bit critical, and that didn't land. I know you maybe didn't mean it that way, but that's not okay with me," and just
Mhm.
have the conversation, break the
Yeah,
pattern.
have the conversation instead of it building up and then it turning into this huge thing, which builds contempt, and then boom, bang, you're done.
Right, so we have contempt and criticism. What's the next one, Afton?
Defensiveness. So, defensiveness goes if someone says, so critic and defense, they play a perfect little duo together. You hear a critique, you instantly defend, and it just keeps going and going. Defense is really a mechanism that's used for escaping accountability. Instead of taking a second and hearing your partner, it goes, no, hear me first. And so it makes sense why it happens because we don't want to feel bad. We don't want to be this person that hurts our partner and we want to feel love, but it's so much easier to change the blame game. And so defense comes up pretty quick.
Erin, what do you Erin and I are kinda, like, both sitting back a little bit on that one because actually we're sort of the opposite of defensive. In fact, I think we're hyper or, like, overly responsible at times and, like, take on almost
Okay.
too much, which is the pendulum always swings in these patterns, right?
I
Yeah,
was just thinking of in my last sort of big relationship, criticism and defensiveness was a huge thing, and I was the defensiveness.
Mm.
And I'm just sitting here as I'm listening to you, Afton, and I'm thinking like, well, how does a person who feels criticized come out of being defensive? Like how does one even do that? I mean, because it's just it can be overwhelming when you feel criticized,
Oh,
especially all
yeah.
the time.
Yeah, it's hard. And I will say there's kind of a fine line between defensiveness and standing up for yourself, right? So if someone is being very unkind and they're really degrading you, there is a point of like the defense in itself is standing up for who you are. I mean, like, it's not okay to treat me like that. The defensiveness I'm kind of talking about is the idea of if your partner comes to you with something that's a sincere complaint and probably something that they don't love, coming and hearing them and going, like, the biggest thing that you can do to stop that cycle is go, "It makes sense to me that you feel this. You don't have to agree with them. That's probably the biggest thing I say is like validation does not mean agreement. It just means that you understand what your partner's saying to you. Because if
Mm.
they
Yeah.
feel understood,
Byron
they'll
Katie
change.
talks about, she says, can you just put yourself in their shoes and see how it might not be true for you, but how it could be true for them?
Mhm.
And to really
Mhm.
just get into, like, okay, I could see how that could be true for you.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's a
Yeah, I
game
can see
changer
that too.
phrase.
Yeah, I
And
can
I
see that too.
Yeah. Sorry, I wanna go quickly back to Erin, what you were saying of, like, how do you not get defensive? It takes a lot of inner strength and courage to be able to notice what you're doing and go, "I need to change this a little bit." And a lot of what I work with couples on is not drastic change. It's like, what's that quick little difference? Like, do you say something just a little bit differently? Do you pause for 1 second instead of jumping in? 'Cause it takes a while to unwind these patterns and these tangos that we've built over time with our partners.
I can see that for sure.
To this, because Erin and I have both been in the past probably addicted to external validation, let's say, which a lot of people are. And a lot of relationships have that dynamic because they've got one partner love bombing them all the time. And I don't mean that in in the negative, trendy way. I just mean like like words
Yeah,
of adoration and like really adoring them and creating that. And then when a perceived criticism comes, they have no resilience for that at all. And the defensiveness is bigger. And to me, that points to, oh, I'm actually experiencing other based esteem, meaning I think I'm valuable only when you think I'm valuable. And if you question that, if you question me, all of a sudden that rocks my sense of self worth.
Mhm.
And
that's a
that's,
good
I think,
awareness.
where the
Heck yeah.
defensiveness really comes from when we feel our self worth is challenged. But if we really want to get truly responsible, it's like, why am I outsourcing my self-worth? Because if, Erin and I had a teacher, a yoga teacher who always said, if you don't want the criticism, don't take the sweets.
Interesting.
He's like,
Okay.
you cannot outsource your self-worth. Let it
Mhm.
all roll off your back.
Hmm.
And that's hard to do too, but it's a great
Yeah.
concept to work with.
Yeah, it's kind of like I imagine, like how people say like a duck and the water like hits it and it just kind of trickles off. Some of it does have a little residue on them still, right? So there's going to be a little piece. There's going to be that inkling because we're not robots. We're humans. Things are going to impact us. It's these great, beautiful, like I can transcend and I can do this thing. And I think kind of what at least I ask of people is just try a little bit more to be okay with the uncomfort and the change.
Resilience right there. It's that's the one who gets defensive and takes the criticism, expanding their capacity to be resilient in that moment and let it roll
Yeah.
off. Yeah.
And then
That's
also I wanna say, I
I
know
love that.
too, you both are, like you're hitting an amazing point of, like, the part of the partner who receives. A lot of my work is also pointing out to the partner who's doing the contempt, doing the criticism to go, "Yo, what are you
dude.
doing here?"
Is that getting you what, like Dr. Phil says, how's that working for you? Is that
Not
actually
well.
my greatest when I'm working with
Back
coaching
off.
clients, I say to them, "Does that lead you toward what you want or away from it?" You know?
Yes.
Like, that's just a real simple question. And
Yeah.
then my other question I ask is, will you respect or like yourself more or less when you say that thing?
Mm.
Hmm.
And,
Mhm.
often the answer is like, "Ooh, no."
Yeah, it feels icky, and then it goes, "Ooh, maybe I should change this," and then the question is, "Well, how do I?" And that's usually the hard part.
Well,
Right.
and I talk about that most criticisms, most complaints they're born from a request that's not been made. So
Mm.
essentially, we have an invisible instruction manual for how people should behave. And when they don't follow that invisible instruction manual, then all of a sudden we feel like they're dissing us in some way. And we build up that frustration and we start building a case against them in our head. And it comes out like a complaint that could have been a very simple request. Like, when you don't pick up the socks, I feel disregarded and disrespected. And I know you don't mean it that way, but it would be really helpful for me to pick up the socks. But if we don't say that, it turns into, "You always leave your
Yeah.
fucking socks on the floor and you're such an asshole."
That's the arguments. That's the arguments. It's like it's dishes, it's clothes, it's chores. You're usually couples are not arguing about that. They're arguing about something deeper. And you hit it right on the head, Pam. They're talking about, do you care about me? Do you love me? Do you think about me? It really comes down to that at the end of the day.
There must be quite a bit in your practice about teaching couples how to communicate? Like, how Pam was just describing it could be easy if it was just a simple request, right? People don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we're not taught how to talk to each other. Like I'm kind of this proponent of like I wish growing up we are taught here's how you hear somebody and how you validate them and then here's how you reply to create a system that works. But then we're taking the humanness out of being human. So I like that and that's a
That's
magical
great.
world.
I like that too. The human is out of being human. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm glad they don't teach it in school because it's given me a really thriving coaching practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, get it, girl. Let's go.
Kidding, kidding. I wish that we could go and teach people
It
the
would be
art of
nice.
conversation, the art of what
Yeah.
I call it blameless communication. And just I think that is something that, and I think for every couple for anyone who's in a relationship who's listening to this, if you weren't taught this, like get some help. Even if your
Oh, totally.
relationship's not in trouble, it will make your relationship better.
Yes.
Yeah. I always talk about like you don't have to come to me in an emergency. Like I have couples who are just trying to connect a little bit better. And those are the ones who tend to like when you build that foundation of learning different kinds of communication, you're setting yourself up for a really long time because when you go through those hard times, which are people call like emergency time, you have something you can kind of lean on. Um
Yeah. Yeah, you're resourced.
exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Resourced.
like to call it tools. I don't know, that's like a fun therapy term people use, but a lot of what I do is going through I call them exercises or experiments, of how you communicate. So I kinda witness what they do, and it's a little uncomfortable at first for couples to, like, talk and just, like, watch what's going on, and then I hop in and go, "Okay, here's kinda what's going on. Let's try this a little different," and I get them to do I've got quite a few different exercises by the Gottmans that we can
So
try
you're
to change.
disrupting the drift of the usual pattern, which creates a usual trajectory, which winds up in when you wind up in Destructionville, you went through the city of bad communication first. And
Yeah.
if we want to get to connection, we have to go through the city of hard conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to go through a roller coaster of it too, because a lot of it is like, we'll try the exercise, it'll go okay, and then we'll try it again, and it'll go awful, and then we'll try it again, and it'll go a little better. So I think there's this expectation a lot out there that, oh, we'll get an exercise one session and we'll be good. It's like, no, it's going to take practice. It's going to take effort because you're not going to have the pointing out of me all the time outside of the room. So
Yeah.
I'm the one that's going, "Ee, ee, ee, ee."
Well, it's more than that, right? Like these patterns, they are strategies that were developed in childhood to to keep us safe. To we're hyper vigilant for being criticized or whatever it is. And so these patterns are protective, but they're not necessarily they're moving us away from what we don't want, but they are not moving us towards what we do want. And the nervous system is invested in surviving. It doesn't really
Yeah.
care about thriving. It cares that the meat suit continues.
I love that you say meat suit. I call it that too.
Yeah, so the meat
It's so
suit
good.
carries on and you could be anxious AF and be like, you know, it doesn't care. It takes something mastery through repetition. It takes repeated sessions of practicing interruption and teaching the nervous system that these kinds of conversations are survivable and then
Mhm.
actually more enjoyable and then actually lead you to what you want, that there's a reward for them. But it's not that way right away.
No, it takes effort. It takes a lot of effort. Like, any, I want to say too, like, even a couple showing up for a 20-minute consult with me takes effort. Like, even that act in itself, like, if people never see me again, I always go, the fact that you did something different for your relationship today speaks volumes.
Yeah. Okay, so we
It's
got
amazing.
contempt, criticism,
Yeah.
defensiveness. What's the last of the four horsemen, Afton?
We've got stonewalling. And stonewalling is basically someone fully shuts down. They don't look at you, they don't talk. And it's so
Do you know my
isolating.
ex-husband?
I don't know, maybe. It's tough to manage, and a lot of the time, people who stonewall are trying to do it to regulate themselves, like, that's how c they kind of figure out how to cope.
That
It's
makes
just
sense.
not very helpful. What I like to do is encourage couples, if one who stonewalls needs time to regulate, that you request a timeout, and you go, "I need 5 minutes to collect, and I'll come," and then the promise is you come back and you check in. If you're not still ready, you go back and you regulate again, and then you come back in. That's,
Mhm.
like, the biggest way to help with stonewalling, because then you're training yourself. It's okay to, like, collect yourself, but do it in a way that's helpful to your partner.
Well, stonewalling, like you're saying, that sometimes it's how people regulate. And I'm gonna
Yeah.
put one more scenario in the place, which I know that you know, but sometimes it's we've learned passive aggressive bullshit behavior to punish our partner when we don't get what we need.
Thank you for bringing that up. It can be
And so
very
sometimes
manipulative.
stonewalling's not I need to regulate. It's actually I'm gonna punish you. I'm gonna give you the silent treatment because I don't like the way you're talking to me right now. So I'm gonna take your power away. And that is so toxic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight
I
up.
I don't have more to say. It's just it's not good. Don't
It's
do it.
well, I got lots to say. Childish, grow up, get some skills, go see Afton. Like,
Yeah.
if you're doing shit like that, I did a reel one time, a post on Instagram about the silent treatment being so toxic. Oh my god, I almost got canceled because all these people were like, "Well, it's the only thing I can do." I'm like, "Well, you're in a toxic relationship and maybe you should get some help." But if you're
Yeah, there's a
using
lot
it
of
to
options out there.
manipulate someone's behavior, you're the toxic one.
There's also too another layer. I'm so glad we're on this, is that some people have learned that behavior. So they've
Totally.
witnessed this. We learn so much from our caregivers growing up and the institutions we're in. If they see contempt, criticism, defensiveness, or stonewalling, it's very likely they're going to repeat that because that's what they know. Not that they want to, but they understand it and they get how it works. So it's also sometimes a very trained thing.
I love
And
my
on
mom,
some
she's an
level,
amazing
it's
woman, but she's, the master of passive aggressive, and I learned that
yeah.
in a little bit of stonewalling, a little bit of silent treatment until I got called out on it by my current partner. He's like I went and had a little pout in the hot tub one night, and I was waiting out there for him to come get me, and it was hilarious because I was like, "I think the coyotes are coming before he's coming, like, I don't know I'm gonna get
Yeah. You're like, where is this? Why isn't my pattern working?
why isn't my pattern working?" And then he's laughing at me, he's like, "You know, if you have something you wanna say, you can just say it." Like
Yeah, I bet that was quite a change for you.
it was a big change for me, and I was really embarrassed, actually, I didn't realize that I
Mm,
had that pattern. It was a dynamic that was within my marriage for 19 years that I wasn't really aware of, but when I would stonewall, withdraw, make some passive aggressive comment or passive aggressive action like, "Well, I'm getting out of bed in the middle of the freaking night to go sit in the hot tub," like, Jesus, temper tantrum. Then he would be scared of losing me because he had a little disorganized attachment, and he'd come running, "Baby girl, it's okay," you know?
what a beautiful little dance you
Right?
2 had.
Wasn't that a good dance? Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, it was actually really great. Like I said, I was embarrassed when it got called out to me and really grateful because that's not who I wanna be. I didn't see it. I didn't see it because it was modeled for me. And so Erin and
Mhm,
I like to say often, like, yes, take responsibility. And also, you have to go, of course, and no wonder. It's just how we
Mhm.
learn to have our needs met and have compassion for that, and then also do better.
yeah, like, we grow in our developmental years are gonna impact the rest of our life, and then we get the choice to go, "Are we gonna keep doing the same pattern because our brain loves to keep doing the same thing, or are we gonna train it to do something a little different that's better for us and for others around us?"
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love how you put the promise in there too. Like stonewall, regulate, come back with the promise that you're gonna come back and deal or communicate through the problem.
Yeah,
That's
because
huge.
without that, there's more hurt.
Yeah,
We're
it just
trying to avoid
compounds,
more pain.
Yeah.
compounds.
Now, the other thing that I love about Gottman's work, this idea about bids for attention. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, totally. It's funny, I talk my partner and I, we always go, "Listen to my bed." Like, he gets the benefit of all of this stuff. It's so funny. I even did it yesterday. We were traveling home and, he was on his phone and I was just, like, off my phone, and then I looked at him, I'm like, "Why aren't you paying attention to his bids?" And he was like, I said, "Yeah, uh-huh," and he was doing it's sorry, I say this because it's such a good example because there's different levels of giving bids and receiving bids, and so he was doing the perfect, like, "I acknowledge I got you, but I'm in my own world." And then other times, like, I'll have him where I'm like, "Oh my god, look at that bird." And he's like, "I have to look at that bird with you." And he really engages. Or so all these examples to say, bids are basically when your partner says something that they want you to pay attention to, or they want like a quick second of you. And when you go towards it, even the gives you the boost of, oh, my partner pays attention to me. And then if they kind of like don't really acknowledge it, that's like, okay. Or if they really get into it, like they're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna stare at this bird with you and ask you questions about the bird. That's like the glory of getting a bid. And then there's the other side of bids where they get continually ignored, or someone decides that they're just gonna like kind of acknowledge, but they do it in a way that's like, why do you care about that? And the reason we talk about bids a lot is because it builds up what the Gottmans call your emotional bank account as a couple. And so when the bids of like, hey, look at this thing, or hey, I have this question for you, get met, you build up your bank account. Your money keeps going higher and higher. But when you
So
do the
when you have a
bids,
crisis, you have something to withdraw.
exactly. And the thing is with the bank account concept, one negative impact takes 20 good things to outweigh.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow,
it's a lot.
that's
So
mind
those
blowing.
bids every day, those little things actually really matter for a relationship.
So I have a question about this because you hear a lot of I'm really vilifying most social media influencers right now, just for the heck of it. Not for the heck of it, because I think there's a lot of seed planting that's dangerous out there. But we hear a lot about people like with anxious attachment, and I would say that I tend on a little bit of the anxious side. But I'm also a very regulated, intelligent, articulate human being who can manage my emotions and regulate. And so, but like if I text my partner who works out of town just a little smoochy face, and then he texts me back, they call it a dopamine hit and toxic attachment, like anxious
Mm.
attachment. I love this. Like it's just a little bid for attention. You get the
It
attention
is.
and it
That's a
builds
perfect example.
goodwill. And
Yeah,
it's really sweet. Now, if I went into a complete collapsing spiral because he didn't text me back, that might be different.
that's different.
But it's okay also to feel a little bit anxious if you don't have your bid answered.
Yeah,
Like that's just normal human
that's normal.
behavior. It's
Yeah,
normal.
Mhm.
We all want to feel connected with each other. And so
yeah.
I love that Gottman and you are like normalizing bids for attention as part of healthy relationship.
Yeah, because if you don't have that, you're not connected. Like, the base level, if I'm working with a couple, if they're not doing bids, that's the first thing we're working on, because that builds your fondness for each other, and you need fondness to even
I
hold
love
on to a
that.
relationship.
Building fondness.
Yeah.
Aw, yeah, that's so good.
I think it's healthy for a woman to feel like she wants attention from her man a little bit. I don't
Yeah.
I just don't see, a problem with that at all.
It's normal to want attention from your partner. There are varying levels of wanting attention, I will say that, but it's very natural.
Varying
So
levels.
let's move on to intimacy.
Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, Erin, I think Erin's got a couple questions for you around this.
So, what can you explain what so in my little bio that I have for you here, you talk about how emotional intimacy actually erodes first and physical intimacy, the distance between is really just a symptom of that. So, can you just explain that or like what is intimacy first and foremost? And how do you usually see it working and eroding with a couple in a couple's scenario?
Yeah, intimacy, I think, has become very sexualized. It is sexual, and it also is, if we think about it, our biggest sex organ is our brain. And because a lot of eroticism, a lot of our connection is in our brain, we don't really, that's how we process and understand it. There are physiological things that happen as well, but intimacy really starts in the brain. And I really talk about emotional intimacy. And it's kind of all this stuff that we've already been talking about of like, if you're not having those bids, if you're not having those feelings of like my partner cares for me, like why aren't you picking up the socks? Like, you know, those build emotional intimacy. How I define intimacy is care and connection. it's not just this idea of penetration. Like, it's not just that. That is a part of it, 100%. Um, but when you erode, like, when you stop thinking about your partner, when you stop doing things out of thoughtfulness for them, when you stop prioritizing them, when you stop enjoying and being a part of the bidding process, these are the kinds of things that erode it, which make it so that you do not want to be intimate physically. Because when you don't have the safety and the connection of emotional understanding and trust that your partner actually cares for you, your brain, especially for women, it's really hard to want to get intimate physically.
I feel like safety then becomes a big, like you just said, becomes a big part of it, especially for women, for sure. But I love how the bids create intimacy. So are the bids like the little things people can do almost daily to create more emotional intimacy?
Totally. And it's like a big thing is I think a lot of culture is said, and we see this in media all the time in social media. You got to do these grand gestures to have intimacy. That's amazing. I love it if a couple could do that and they're actually into it. If you actually like the
If it's
big
not just
thing.
performative for Instagram.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. It has to be genuine or authentic because you can feel when it's not. Like we may not say it, but our bodies understand the energy of when it's if it's trying to get something out of you or not. Like sometimes couples are like, oh, we'll go on a date, but then someone expects sex after and the other doesn't. So
Mm.
there's these unwritten rules that couples end up having when it comes to their emotional intimacy that then they expect to lead to physical intimacy that they haven't even talked about that should be really a part of, and sorry, I don't like shitting on people, that I encourage to be a part of the conversation.
Interesting that and bringing up the sex too part of it. So I have a client who is in a really interesting situation. So he's used to having sexual intimacy in a certain way, and he has this raw desire, but now he finds himself in a scenario or in a relationship where he is just in love, and he feels seen and heard, and all that emotional intimacy is there, and there's a struggle now, a little bit of tension now with the raw emotional sexual part of it. Do you have anything that you could comment on that? I don't even really know that I have a question about that, but, like, what do you think about that? What's your take on that? That
This
little bit of
speaks
s
perfectly to Esther Perel's work. Like, that is what she talks about, though, between the line of, emotional safety and desire and passion. And I like to call that they're like this teeter-totter. Like, when you're a kid and you're like, we have to find the balance here. Or like, we really want to jump up high. We want to, the person wants to go really low. That's kind of how safety and desire work. You need both in relationship, but they are really hard to hold at the same time because when you have a lot of safety, desires per oh, sorry, which way is my scale? When you have one, the other one's, like, really high, the other one can end up going really low, because when you feel so comfortable with someone, like, let's, for example, say you're in super loving relationship, you can poop and fart, and you can laugh and have gas in front of them. Does that make you feel like you wanna be sexy with them? Probably not. So, that is part of being in a relationship, and those things are gonna happen, but it's like, how do you build up those desire pieces while also having those comfort pieces instead of them outweighing each other?
Do you have any tips on that or how someone would actually do that? Like, I refuse to poop in front of my partner.
Me too. Like, I'm just like,
I'm like,
"Nope,
it kills the
nope,
magic.
no,"
No.
because exactly that, I think there
Yeah.
does have to be some mystery. It's not about embarrassment or whatever. I would do that in
No.
front of Erin, it's fine, but it's
Yeah,
like
Well, you
but
guys aren't in a sexual connection, so that makes
but
sense to
exactly.
yeah,
me.
exactly, but with my partner that I want a sexual connection with, I don't want that. I don't wanna see him poop. I don't want
Yeah.
Me
yeah.
neither.
This is a great example. Like, I gave the very extreme of, like, the example, but putting in that line of, well, I'm not gonna do that because I create the mystery, and mystery is the biggest part. So, ways that you can implement mystery into your relationship, you can do that sexually. So, as a couple, you discuss, what does mystery look like? Some couples go, I'm gonna be a firefighter and I'm gonna pretend I have a different name. But you still
Like
do the
role
same
play.
act. You do the exact same thing, but you, even if you just say, "My name is," let's say, Josh. I'm gonna go with the guy. That's not his name, but maybe that's his name in the room. And then he does, like, a little different voice. That's created mystery. Like, we're not looking for massive shifts. We're looking for little incremental things to create that idea of mystery, to create desire. And you, as a couple, decide together what that is. So, what I would encourage, if you want to look at building that, physical intimacy together to create that desire, you need to talk about what that looks like. You can't just throw that at your partner, because that's gonna be like, "I don't know what to do with this," and they may run away screaming going, "Who the hell are you? I don't like this thing." There has to be consent involved and understanding of what
Jeez,
the
Erin.
try.
I've been there. It's like, whoa,
Yeah,
Everybody
can
stop
we
the
put that
bus
back in
right
the
here.
box, please?
Yeah.
yeah. So, but all to say, you use that love, that what you've talked about with this person, to create the base of talking about how do we add mystery in. And it doesn't have to be like, I'm gonna do this move and you're gonna do this move. Doesn't have to be that, but an agreement of what mystery and the essence of it feels like will help.
I'm a little bit stuck. I have to just play the devil's advocate a little bit because, like, if I wanna have mystery and sexual raw intensity, I don't really wanna talk about it. So, can
Yeah.
we just like, how could we have a conversation that's just, like, kind of, "Okay, I see you, I hear you," it's maybe a little bit minimal? I don't know. What do you think about that, Afton?
Yeah, it's a hard line. You know, I say to couples too that booking sex is sexy because it's intention. Intention around mystery, intention around planning, intention shows you care. So you're building up both desire and emotional at the same time with that. You don't have to, and I also want to say to listeners, I'm being very broad. Please don't take this super specifically. It is case by case basis. But what I would say is it takes this ability to be high level of what you're looking for and find agreement on of, we're going to agree that we're going to try out the concept of role play. We have bounds within that. But then when you get into it, you can let that raw version of you out, right? Like if
I see.
someone really wants to really get into the character, get into the character.
Right.
Or if someone really wants to try a specific thing, like they do the research and they build up the excitement around it, and like their partner has agreed to this, and then they get to give this like gift of mystery of like they kind of have an idea what's going on, but they don't fully have the idea of what's going on.
I see, I see. So let's not talk it to death, but we can talk
Yes.
about, like, a concept, like you said.
Yeah. The biggest thing is agreement. And then I also say if you don't agree while you're in it, you stop and you agree on what that stopping is so that you don't kill the concept of mystery for each other.
So I also think that now that we have so much therapy speak in the world, that we over therapize and pathologize our relationships, and that can sort of kill that mystery. Um, and so I think that we have to learn to process some things on our own. Like have a village, have a friend to call. You don't have to
Yeah.
process everything
Yes.
with your partner, because it's lovely to be understood, and there is room for that emotional intimacy, but then it can cross a line, and I've seen people have a hard time crossing that bridge back. Like it starts out really sexual, and then they're like, "Whoa, this person knows me," and they get into that like, oh, deep emotional intimacy, and then one partner has a hard time crossing back over, and I don't know what the pathology of that is. Maybe sex has been something totally different to them in their wiring or whatever, but they have a hard time holding both things at once, that
Mm-hmm.
emotional intimacy and the sexual chemistry. Mm.
It's really like I think people forget that we end up with strangers that have a whole other life that we don't know about.
Mhm.
And we give ourselves in so many ways to our partners. And it's really scary to let someone else into your life and trust them with your brain,
Mhm.
with your body, with your spirit. It's huge what we're asking. And I think it's very popular to believe, like, oh, it's like, yes, love is amazing. It is one of the coolest things you can experience in your life. It's also one of the hardest and one of the most vulnerable things you'll do in your life.
Yes.
A question that's
I
not
agree.
it was just coming to me right now. Aaron and I were talking about this a few days ago. I saw, he's a Vedic teacher, like from
Mm.
the yoga tradition, and he was telling a story of two brothers. And he said one brother married a woman who loved him more than he loved her. He respected her, he cared for her, but she was really devoted to him and sweet, and he just received that love. And his other brother married a woman that he was passionate about and loved probably more than she loved him. And when they met later in their life, the one brother said, "Oh my goodness, like I wish that I had the passion that you had." And the other brother said, "I've been anxious my whole life that she was going to leave. I wish that I had the safety that you have." And the sort of moral of the story is that this idea that you can have it all, like that it's just going to be there, I think it's just false. I think actually in relationships, there will be give ups, and we just have to decide, is that a deal breaker for us? And then choose to look at the things that are going well there.
Love that, and then the teeter-totter too, right? Of desire and safety. It's like you can maneuver that, you can move that around a little bit and play with that and
Yeah.
those aren't static things in a relationship.
I love it. Relationships are not static. They are constantly moving. They are constantly dynamic. You and the I think we have this ideal, at least in Western culture, that relationships are supposed to be perfect at all times. You get everything from your partner. That's not reality. I'm sorry if that's what you're
Yeah.
looking for. I don't know what world you live in, but you're not on Earth. The reality is relationships are hard. They're fun. They're messy. They're beautiful. You're going to have really hard periods with a partner, even if you have an amazing foundation. Life is going to throw shit your way that you're not going to know how to handle.
So
And then there's going to be times where it's amazing.
that leads me to a question, and I think this might be really great for you to speak on. We tend to have this black and white thinking of like, especially I'm 54. You know, you get into I've been married for a long, long time in between there, and then my marriage ends, and you get out in the dating world and you're meeting people, and we start thinking about, is this the right partner for me?
Mhm.
And looking for the boxes to be checked off instead of relationships are going to be challenging. This is a mirror for me to explore and experiment with what's okay with me, what's not, who do I want to be in a relationship, what feels good, what doesn't. And then at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, we can also choose to have a different relationship. This idea that it's got to be right means that there's a
Mm.
wrong choice. And I think
There's
that
so
fucks
much
up more
pressure.
relationships than anything.
Mhm.
Yeah, the pressure cooker that we put ourselves in relationship is unattainable. Setting ourselves up to end up in breakups and creating a space of understanding. And I always like to say, we are perfectly imperfect. And that means the imperfect is always present. And that's perfect because it needs to be there. And so it's this idea of like, if you want someone else to accept your version of human, you have to be willing to accept their version of human.
Yeah. And you get to
For
decide, like,
sure.
if something's a deal breaker or not and move on, certainly. And people grow and change their minds. But if we always have this question in the back of our minds, like it's got to be a certain way or it's not right, we're never going to be successful. We have to realize we're all growing, we're all malleable, and every marriage, every relationship is going to need an upgrade. What do you call that? Like the iOS update on your iPhone.
Yeah. You need a
Update.
soft date that keeps
Software
getting
update, and
notified.
sometimes there's glitches in the software updates.
Yeah.
Yes.
It
Make sure
doesn't
it's
go
plugged in at
smoothly.
night.
That's such a good example. It's so true though. When you agree to be in relationship with someone, you have subconsciously agreed to be with someone who will never be the same in that moment again with you.
Wow.
And we expect our people to be the exact same in the first couple of months. Like we expect that spark. We expect that crazy dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin flow in the rest of our relationships. It's not going to happen. You're going to build different emotional connection and physical intimacy with them as times change. And sometimes it's going to get worse and then it's going to get better. But the reality is change is going to be ever present in your relationship. And when people go, "Oh, I miss the old version." It's like I go, "Well, what about the new version? What about the version you don't even know exists together yet? Let's
Oh,
try and
that's
find that."
beautiful. That's beautiful. I love that. That's an opportunity for lots of possibility there.
Yeah.
And so what about if, there starts to be struggle? Like, so if, for instance, in my last marriage, I thought everything was fine. Like looking back now, I can see some things certainly, but we were very loving, very fun loving, very easygoing. And I mistook the lack of resistance for happiness. And I got blindsided, like literally just blindsided 19 years in. And it's like, I think I want to go have a baby with someone else. I was like, what the actual fuck? My kids are grown up. Like, what are we even talking about here? And so, can you speak to that? Like, because I have heard this from so many, not just women, men, blindsided. Like, what's going on there?
I would say you kind of touched on it a little bit of when there isn't like conflict or there is not this like things being brought up, we assume default good. I usually go if things are being brought up, default something's happening that we don't know
Mm,
about. Because if someone's not talking, there's a lot going on in their brain that they're trying to figure out, or they're scared to talk about, or they don't even know what they're experiencing internally. It's usually a sign that something needs attention. But it's
and
hard because it goes, "Oh, it's great. We don't have to talk about it." And I like to say, like, I encourage couples to do a weekly check-in where you agree on what the questions are. For example, my partner and I have one of our questions is, what's something you've been thinking about that you haven't shared with me that you're nervous to talk about? And we know that question's coming every week. And so because of that question, it makes us go and ponder, am I ready to talk about this thing yet? Or am I going to wait a little bit? I don't heavily encourage waiting to talk about stuff, but some stuff's really hard to talk about. And you need that dedicated space to it.
my
For
relationship was total avoidance of those conversations completely. And we just avoided each other to the point where we became two ships in the night, and it was just so toxic. And looking back, I was like, why do we avoid those hard conversations? What is underneath that,
We're
do you
scared.
think?
We're really scared to actually talk about what's happening. Because if we actually talk about what's happening, we think we're going to lose it. But then by not doing it, we end up losing it anyway.
That's
Mhm.
fascinating. That's a
Yeah.
paradox.
Isn't it? But we
Yeah.
do it because it's easier. It's really hard to be in uncomfortable conversations. It's like being in the reality of what's not working is really hard, which is why I'm like, kudos to all the couples that see me because you're willing to be in that reality in some form.
Right.
It's just our tolerance for being able to be in uncomfort can be quite minimal sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is probably the work that where all three of our practices sort of collide, intersect, is that really we're fed this false narrative that we deserve to be comfortable. And when you're on the right track, everything will feel good.
Mhm.
And so then we take it as there's something wrong, there's something I need to do about this if we're uncomfortable. But the paradox in that is that we don't grow without discomfort. Growth is inevitably uncomfortable, and we need to get comfortable being uncomfortable if we want to have successful relationships. I had to have a really uncomfortable conversation with my partner yesterday, but I know the consequence of not having that conversation. And you know what? It went beautifully and it was grounded afterwards and I felt better. I'd been on the phone with Erin before and I'm like, oh my God. And yeah, so sort it out in your brain first so that you can actually have the conversation from a grounded place.
And then the consequences can be good.
The
We think
consequences were
consequences
good,
are
but
bad.
I had been
They
avoiding
don't
it
have to be.
because I was afraid of like, this is a new-ish relationship and I don't want to like it's great. And I was just recently blindsided. I still have that fear of. And so I was sort of clinging to not rocking the boat, and then I was like, "Who do I really wanna be in this?" And it was received so well and just normal and good. Yeah, so there I just trained my nervous system to expand some capacity.
Yeah, too. And you even said there of like, we assume a lot of how our partners are going to reply to stuff. We don't give them the opportunity to change. So we assume you're going to do this. They might not. Like there's one time they might also do the same thing every time, but they're a stranger to us who has their own thought process. Our thought process is put onto them. And so give them the opportunity to try something different.
So
I love that.
what's your greatest piece of advice to any couple? If you could give one piece of advice to any couple, new, old, whatever, in a relationship that would make a difference for them, whether they're in a good phase or a disintegrating phase.
I'm going to say have intention and choose. If you want to be in that relation, have the intention of choosing your partner. When you have that thought process, you are going to be better off.
Love that. I think that's
And it's
Yeah.
not
brilliant. I think
choosing you.
that is the best answer you could have given. I love that.
Yeah.
Choose. Just
Intention.
make a freaking choice And then, I mean, there's all the science behind that. Your reticular activating system will try to, it likes to be right. So it's going to show you all the reasons why you're right when you make the choice.
Make the choice.
But you got to make the choice. It's like, it's not, I'll believe it when I see it. You'll see it when you believe it.
Yes, because you make the choice to believe it when you see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Where can people find you, Afton, if they're moved by this and they're interested in maybe doing some consult with you or working with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so aftinjollycounseling.com or Aftin Jolly Counseling on Instagram. Either way.
Okay, we'll link those in the show notes. And Afton is in the Kelowna area, so if you're in the Okanagan, you can get her. I'm sure you work by Zoom too, probably.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So doesn't matter where you are. Erin, any final thoughts before we sign off?
I love the idea that we get help from a professional like Afton before it's an emergency. So maybe look her up if you're just looking to even figure out how to communicate better. Thank
Love
you for
it.
coming on the show, Afton. I've really enjoyed listening to you.
Thank you. It's been so fun.
If you like the show, if you got something from the show, if you know someone who would benefit from it, please share the show. It's growing. We're so grateful for that. And leave your comments. We also like to answer them. We love hearing from you, and we will get back to you. So until next time.